Hi, I'm Dr. Tomi Mitchell, and welcome to Redefining Burnout, reclaiming your energy and purpose. Before we talk about exhaustion, we need to talk about relationship. Because burnout isn't really about your job. It's about your connection to yourself, to the people around you, and to the meaning behind what you do. Burnout happens when relationships become one-sided, when you keep on pouring out empathy, time, and care without anything flowing back in. It's the slow unraveling that begins the moment belonging turns into obligation and connection turns into performance. As Brené Brown says, quote, "We are hardwired for connection, but the moment we start hustling for our worth, we break that connection," end of quote. And that's where burnout lives, not in the task, but in the space between people. Over the years, I began to see burnout in a different lens, a human one. That's what inspired what I call now the anatomy of alignment, a framework built on relationships. And I use an analogy with a stool with 3 legs. And the stool has these 3 legs, each representing 3 critical relationships we all have. The first leg, the first relationship, is the relationship you have with yourself. That's your relationship with your own body, mind, and soul. That is a combination of your past experiences, your mindset, ideology. That is you. And that, frankly, is probably one of the most important relationships we all have, and often one of the most neglected. The second relationship, or the second leg of the stool in the anatomy of alignment, is that with your significant other or close confidant. This is the connection to those closest to you, and it could be friends, partner, family. And then thirdly, work and society. This is your bond with purpose, connection, and community. And these 3 legs rest upon what I call the struts, which is faith, the belief in that which is greater. When one leg weakens, the entire structure wobbles. So one leg of the stool weakens, the entire structure wobbles, and it can fall. And when it collapses, that's what we call burnout. Burnout is more than just a work phenomenon. It is a relationship phenomenon. And yes, work is part of it, but it's only a third of the picture. For years, I didn't even know what burnout was, because when your norm is chronic exhaustion after years of school, medical school, residency, becoming an attending, running a practice, being a mother, that was just normal. And it really wasn't until the COVID-19 pandemic that I really start hearing about this word, burnout, and realizing over time that I was the poster child for burnout. I hit a wall and I was done. I was tired of a system that demanded more than it gave, tired of being compassionate in a culture that rewarded compliance, tired for caring for others while slowly disconnected with myself. It wasn't work per se that broke me. It was the absence of balance, a mutual exchange of give and take. Medicine, family, society, all of it asked for more empathy, more output, more perfection, and gave very little safety in return. And my relationships became toxic. And that was my burning point. I realized that burnout wasn't necessarily a medical diagnosis. It was a relational wound. And like any wound, healing required connection to self, to purpose, and to truth. Physiologically, burnout is a stress loop. Cortisol stays high, your brain rewires for survival, and eventually you stop feeling joy. But emotionally, it's deeper than that. It's what happens when the nervous system has no safe place to land, when empathy isn't met with empathy. As Brené Brown says, quote, "Connection is why we are here. It gives purpose and meaning to our lives," end of quote. When we lose connection, everything else starts to decay, from our health to our hope. Let's redefine burnout. Burnout isn't a failure of strength, it's a failure of alignment. It's feedback that your relationships, whether your work, your body, or your boundaries, need repair. And like any good experiment, when the outcome isn't sustainable, you change the variables. That's where the anatomy of alignment comes in. It teaches us to evaluate where you're leaking energy and rebuild connections that matter the most. If you've been giving everything and you still feel empty, you're not broken, you're disconnected. And disconnection is something we can heal. In this series, I'll walk with you how to recognize burnout as a relational phenomenon, understand its impact on your body and mind, and most importantly, how to realign so that your energy and purpose flow freely again. Because burnout isn't the end, it's your body's way of saying, come back, reconnect, realign. I'm Dr. Mitchell, and next week, we'll talk about the silent physical toll of burnout and how your body keeps score when connections run dry.